Welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today for this webinar training presentation introducing you to Panorama's fairly recently introduced functionality, that being the cash investment strategy. My name is David Giltrap. I'm part of the training and capability team here at BT, and again, a pleasure to present this webinar session for you today. We do have a large group attending today, a few just dialing in and registering for the session right now. But many of you will have also attended our Panorama webinar series during October and November last year, and more recently perhaps as part of our WRAP to Panorama migration masterclasses, which ran from December through to the last one, which was just last week, I think. If that's the case, a warm welcome back to you. Now, this session today is aimed at existing and new users to Panorama. And for those who've used BT WRAP before, this sort of regular cash sweep type of functionality might be new to you, as this type of functionality wasn't available with WRAP for you. I think at the end of the session, certainly my aim is that you'll have a solid understanding of the functionality, how it operates, and importantly, how it interacts with other pieces of functionality on Panorama, such as the regular investment plan and also advisor portfolios. So that's important, and we'll cover that. I'll make a reference to the Panorama e-Academy training portal, and you can expect a new standalone module covering this cash investment strategy to be added very soon to the transactions and investments course. So that's not there just yet, but this webinar is preceding it, and that module will be made available to you. Rest assured, if you're already a registered user of the training portal, you'll receive an email alerting you to all new courses and modules as they're added to the library. So keep you informed there. Now, in terms of timing for today's session, the intention is to run for about 45 minutes. There's a fair bit that we're going to cover, including any time for questions as well. Now, if you do have any questions throughout, please type them into the Q&A section of your WebEx toolbar. I think that might be bottom right for you. I'll be looking out for any questions that come here throughout. So that's the Q&A, if you can type your questions into there with any questions at all. And a final note, this session is being recorded, will be made available so that you and all your colleagues can view it later, and maybe at a time that's convenient as well. So without further delay, I guess let's have a quick look at the agenda and what we're going to be covering today. So we'll start off firstly by introducing the cash investment strategy, high level at this stage. What is it? What does it do in relation to a client account? And then we'll jump into the Panorama on-screen functionality. And of course, how do you set up the cash investment strategy for a client account? And what are the various parameters that you can choose from in doing so, in setting that up? Now, important, and I've already mentioned this, important to the consideration of the cash investment strategy are some of the principles, how the functionality works, not only within itself, but also in relation to interaction with other pieces of Panorama functionality. So we'll look at that. We'll look at enhanced on-screen client-based reporting that takes in the cash investment strategy, as well as how you can manage the feature for a client account, including being able to, for example, suspend, reactivate, cancel and edit, and a cash investment strategy for a client as well. And we'll round out by looking at help and support and all of the tools that you have and perhaps next steps if this type of functionality is of interest to you and your business. So let's get right into it. And we'll firstly introduce at a high level, like I said, what the cash investment strategy is before getting into some of the details of setting one up for a client. And so as you can see, Panorama's cash investment strategy lets you set up and maintain automatic investing for clients with surplus cash into existing managed investments held by the client. So a couple of key things here. It can be either one-off or regular investing. You can do this. And importantly, it's into managed investments that are already held by the client. We'll go into that further. And further, the cash investment strategy is available for your investment and super and pension client accounts, as well as across the Panorama full menu and also compact also. So let's investigate further now. And we'll turn our attention to your Panorama Advisor site and the functionality and screens that you can use to set up a cash investment strategy for a client account. So if you're in your Panorama client listing, a fast entry into managing the cash investment strategy for a client is from the action icon to the right, and you simply click on the bottom option, and that being cash management. Now, there is an alternative way from a client account, and you can select cash management in the transacting section of the left navigation menu, and that will also get you to this screen which we've come to right here. You can see that you can manage both the drawdown strategy, which can be used to sell down assets to top up cash. But what we're here about today for is it's the cash investment strategy on the right-hand side. So right now you can see that the strategy is disabled. There's no strategy even set up for a client. So firstly, to set up the strategy for a client, you would click on the action icon to the right and then select View and Edit Strategy. So let's select that now. This screen will appear, and across the top you can see the client's portfolio valuation, the total cash balance in the transaction account, and also the total available cash. So the parameters for the strategy are below, and let's look at each of these. So this is setting up the cash investment strategy. So first is the maximum cash target, and this is basically the trigger point for the strategy to buy selected investments, i.e. when cash gets above this level and subject to other parameters that we'll consider in a moment. So the maximum cash target can be a dollar amount, a percentage of the portfolio valuation, or can be whatever the default product minimum is. And that might be $2,000 or other amount as relevant for the Panorama product. Now for pension accounts, you'll see this option here. So, and a blue calculate that you can select to bring up this little calculator. Now for pension accounts, this allows you to choose a number of pension payment amounts to maintain as your maximum cash target, should you choose. Please also note that it doesn't add in the product minimum on top of that. So the tip there is, if you need to do that, maybe add $2,000 or a relevant amount to your calculated number of pension payments, and then just simply enter that in as a dollar amount. But let's just leave the maximum cash target for this example at $2,000. Next is the amount to invest. And firstly, the minimum amount to invest being either the Panorama default of just $100, or you may prefer a higher dollar amount, which can also be selected. Let's leave it at $100 for this illustration. You may also like to control a maximum amount to invest, and you can choose either a dollar amount here or just leave it as the default with no maximum investment amount. And we'll do that for this illustration, leaving it as the no maximum. Then you'll select the investment start date. So when is the cash investment strategy going to run or first run? So for this example, let's put in 15th of March 2021. Now it can be just a one-off investment from the cash balance, or if it's a regular investment, you can toggle on that repeat cash investment button. So let's do that now. And you can set up how often you want to repeat it, and that being the options of fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, or half yearly. For this example, let's just leave it as monthly. And you can also tailor if you'd like an end date. So being able to select from a specific end date, no end date at all, or maybe a set number of repeats. Let's leave it for this example at no end date. Next, we're going to choose what underlying investments the cash investment strategy will go into, and let's scroll further down the page to see those options. So here you have a couple of options for bringing up managed investments, and remember, managed investments that are already held by the client and that will be eligible for investing into the strategy. So the first option is to select Add Current Holdings, and this would bring all the currents eligible managed investments below, and then assets participating and the percentages used can be entered as required. Now, here that it's only managed investments that are eligible, so those being managed funds, managed portfolios, and tailored portfolios already held by the client. And a further note that managed funds may or may not be part of an advisor portfolio or model that the client is attached to, but we'll cover that more in a little bit in a moment. Now, the other option that you have is to click on the box that says enter asset name or code above there, and the full listing of assets will appear. So you would select what you're after, and in this example, we'll take the BlackRock fund before selecting add asset. And then you can see the asset comes in down below, the current market value, weighting in the portfolio, and the fact also that it's a non-model asset. So it's not in an advisor portfolio. If that managed fund was part of an advisor portfolio, you'd see that, the model they're linked to, and you'd see also the weighting of that asset in the advisor portfolio as well. So for this example, let's make it very simple and give 100% total to the BlackRock fund, and you want a green 100% total down the bottom before you can proceed. Now there's a text box there calling out a few things, including a note in relation to maturing term deposits, as well as a reference to assets that could be part of a regular investment plan that's been set up for a client. Now, assuming you're happy with the details as entered, changing as required, and you've cleared that the strategy is approved with your client, then you can tick the confirmation box before submitting through. You'll now see that the cash investment strategy is active for the client. It will note that the strategy, when that will next be processed, and you can see it's 5 a.m. on the scheduled day, in this case, being the 15th of March 2021. And down further, it highlights the parameters for the cash investment strategy, that being the maximum cash target, the minimum and maximum investment amounts, and later for repeat payments, it will also display the last date that it was run. We just had a question that's come through from Lee, thanks for that. In relation to can ETFs be included in the cash investment strategy? It's only managed investments. So ETFs, because they're listed securities, can't be included. We'll cover that a little bit more in a moment, but thanks for your question, Lee. Okay, so we've introduced the functionality and how you can set it up for a client account. Let's now recap some of the key details about how the cash investment strategy works, and then importantly, how it interacts with some other Panorama features. So we've covered some of this as we've gone through it, but worthwhile to recap on a page and how it works and the parameters that you can choose from in setting it up. So firstly, it's an automated investment of excess cash starting on the date of your choice, importantly, into existing or already held managed investments, i.e. Managed funds that could be part of an advisor portfolio, and also managed portfolios and tailored portfolios. I guess just extending from Lee's earlier question, just note that listed securities, including ETFs and also term deposits, are not eligible investments for the cash investment strategy. Now you'll set a maximum cash target, and think of this again as your trigger point above which the cash investment strategy will seek to run for your client, but again, subject to the parameters that you've set. And those parameters I'm referring to are the minimum and maximum investment amount. As an example, if you have a maximum cash target of $5,000 and a minimum investment amount of $1,000, at the time the cash investment strategy is due to run, you'd need at least $6,000 in the cash balance for that to run. So that's just a very simple example. And the maximum will just be a way of controlling the maximum amount that may be invested as part of the cash investment strategy run. So repeat investments. So the cash investment strategy, like I said, just can be set up for a single run, or you can choose to run it periodically, choosing between, as I mentioned earlier, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, or half yearly as well. So if the client holds term deposits, this is well worth noting, the cash investment strategy will be suspended when a term deposit that is set to deposit all money to cash is maturing within 7 days of the next cash sweep run date. So that's important to note that. So 10 days prior to maturity, you will receive an email notification advising that the cash investment strategy may be suspended because of that term deposit activity. The cash investment strategy will be suspended on the maturity date and will remain suspended until you take action to resume or cancel it. So 7 days after suspension, you'll receive a reminder email that the cash investment strategy is still suspended and will remain suspended again until you take action. So there's certainly alerts there for you to keep you informed. Just note that the cash investment strategy will not be suspended if it's scheduled to run more than 7 days after a term deposit maturity to cash. Now, in those cases, the matured proceeds would be included in the cash investment strategy excess cash calculation, potentially invested as per the settings. So you'd need to either withdraw, invest the proceeds prior to the scheduled run date if this is not the outcome you want, or suspend the strategy yourself. So you've got that choice. Now, not noted on this screen here, but I did want to highlight it for you, is the cash investment strategy also considers upcoming scheduled transactions to be paid within 7 days, such as a regular withdrawal or pension payment. Note, this doesn't include fees, as they're generally not scheduled to occur in advance. So if you are setting aside cash for some reason and perhaps selling down assets to fund a client's future withdrawal, maybe it seems obvious, but remember you may need to suspend the cash investment strategy if you've got it in for a client during this period. So just keep that in mind. Apart from already scheduled payments, the cash investment strategy generally doesn't discern the source of upcoming usage of excess cash, so the suspend feature certainly can be valuable, and we'll cover this in a moment, how you can do that. So let's consider now how the cash investment strategy interacts with other Panorama functionality. And the first point is in relation to investments into managed or tailored portfolios that are part of the cash investment strategy. So for investments into an existing managed portfolio or tailored portfolio, the funds will move into the cash component of the portfolio and then invest the additional funds when the next rebalance is performed. But I probably note this is no different than if you placed your own manual trade into a managed or tailored portfolio, but certainly well worth highlighting that fact. So a cash investment strategy can also be used in conjunction with a regular investment plan. So note, a regular investment plan is a dollar-based investment, and assuming there's enough cash, it will be actioned, whereas the cash investment strategy is only actioned when certain cash levels are reached and in relation to the panorama, the parameters that you've set up as part of that strategy. Now, perhaps, thinking about it, perhaps there might only be limited circumstances where you'd want to run a cash investment strategy in combination with a regular investment plan. More common might be running a cash investment strategy, for example, with a client account that's linked to an advisor portfolio or model. So now, while the cash investment strategy can be used in conjunction with an advisor portfolio, each of them have their own independent parameters. So it is important to understand how the advisor portfolio rebalancing interacts with the cash investment strategy. And this will help you, ensure that you achieve the intended outcomes for your client. And it's certainly worth exploring this further, just specifically in relation to advisor portfolios. So we've made this point, and the cash investment strategy is independent of an advisor portfolio rebalancing, each with their own parameters. Now, it's also worth highlighting that an advisor portfolio can consist of cash, managed funds, and also listed securities. So again, that's a little bit different to the cash investment strategy. And like I said, we've covered this. The cash investment strategy can invest into managed funds that can be part of an advisor portfolio, as well as managed portfolios and tailored portfolios as well. So advisor portfolios can be rebalanced, generally with the purposes of realigning the model or portfolio back to the client's long-term strategic asset allocation as required. This can be done on an ad hoc basis, controlled by you for timing, or you can set up an automated rebalancing. And there's a range of choices as to how the cash balance behaves. And this is what you need to consider and perhaps be aware of in relation to an advisor portfolio client that is also using the cash investment strategy to sweep cash out of the cash account. So depending on the frequency of use and the parameters selected, it's possible that conflicts can occur. You just need to be aware of these if you're using both pieces of functionality. So take care with the timing and frequency of the auto rebalancing if you're doing that to an advisor portfolio in conjunction with a cash investment strategy. Now, if they're being run at a similar time, and as I said, sort of depending on the parameters used, like I said, conflicts can occur. So in many cases, if you're doing this, it might be wise to seek to align the maximum cash target in the cash investment strategy with the cash post rebalance settings for an advisor portfolio when you rebalance those. So, and look, depending on the frequency used with this, and this is sort of a very rough rule of thumb of outcomes that can occur, if the maximum cash target for the cash investment strategy is set at a level which is greater than the advisor portfolio cash rebalance, an outcome can be that the cash investment strategy might not run or might just only infrequently run. May not be a good or intended outcome for your client. And conversely, and again, depending on the frequency, if the maximum cash target of the cash investment strategy is less than the advisor portfolio cash post rebalance settings, you can end up with a sort of seesawing effect where you've got an inefficient number of in and out transactions into your client's underlying investments. Again, potentially not a good outcome either. And on Panorama, to assist with this, I guess, when setting up advisor portfolio rebalancing and cash investment strategies for our clients, where the other functionality is enabled, you will see warning or alert messages so that you can take that into consideration. I'm going to try and illustrate some of those things that I've mentioned that you'll keep in mind and be aware of when using both the cash investment strategy and also advisor portfolios and their rebalancing, whether that be periodic or ad hoc. Let's start with the first example, and that's outcomes that can occur when you've got both functions running in tandem, and the example of where the cash investment strategy is greater than the advisor portfolio cash post rebalance setting. And here we have the client's transaction or cash account, and these are our settings that we've got. You can see that our maximum cash target is above that of the cash post rebalance for the advisor portfolio. Now, of course, depending on frequency, timing, like I mentioned, and how regularly these run together and whether they're near or apart, this is a possible outcome whereby the cash is not allowed to essentially get above the maximum cash target of the cash investment strategy and may not be able to run, and hence the investment is not made and basically bypassed for that cash investment strategy. This is perhaps common sense to a certain extent, but just please do keep this top of mind when you're using these two pieces of functionality together. Have a think about what you're aiming to achieve, think about the timing, and think about the purpose of what you're doing for your client. We'll have a look at another example I just highlighted earlier. And this is where the maximum cash target for the cash investment strategy is below that of your cash post rebalance settings for the advisor portfolio rebalance. Now, again, depending on the frequency and the timing of how regularly these run together, whether they're close or not, this is a possible outcome. And it could lead to, like I said, an inefficient number of potentially in and out transactions, maybe unnecessary number of buys and sells into and out of the client's underlying investments. And again, just keep this in mind, keep these comments top of mind when you're using these two pieces of functionality, and a reminder again that we do have warning messages that appear on screen to alert you when the other functionality is being used for a client account. And if we look at the matter of timing, I guess in relation to, let's go, the core purpose of both of these types of functionality, so the cash investment strategy and the advisor portfolio rebalance, that can probably help us here. Now, the cash investment strategy will generally be seen as a tool to assist with efficiently being able to sweep excess cash from your client's transaction account for investing into underlying investments. And as many of you generally won't like cash to be building up too much for your clients. And if we think in the context of your super clients who might have contributions regularly coming in, distributions and dividends might be dropping into the cash account over time, you might, as an example, prefer a more regular usage of the cash investment strategy sweep into underlying managed investments. And I've just used this monthly example here only for illustration purposes. And then if we think about the purpose of the rebalancing process within advisor portfolios. Now, while we can control what happens with the cash account and hence can invest excess cash in the process, this is generally going to be seen by most advisors, I would say, as a function that allows them to realign the client's portfolio in line with their long-term strategic asset allocation, and maybe a function that might be run less regularly than a cash investment strategy. As an example, maybe half yearly, maybe annually, but again, that's just an example. So this could be a process that is set to occur automatically, as you can see here, or it could be a process that is carried out more on an ad hoc basis, maybe in sync with an annual review for a client, and as an example, with the advisor controlling and setting this rebalance off themselves. Again, these are just examples of how the functionality might be used, but you certainly have all the flexibility to use it as best suits your business and the needs of your client. But please do investigate and understand how each piece of functionality works, get your timing right, and you'll get the expected outcomes you want for your clients. So let's now have a look at your ongoing management and reporting available for you and your clients with the cash investment strategy on Panorama. And we'll firstly look at the process for suspending a cash investment strategy. You can see this strategy is currently active here on screen, and to suspend it, simply toggle the active indicator to the left, and this will make this pop-up appear asking if you want to suspend the current cash investment strategy, noting that the existing settings will be saved. So you can select yes, and then you'd see that it's been suspended, but the settings still noted there underneath. Now let's look at reactivating a suspended cash investment strategy for your clients. And again, you would simply toggle the button back on, as we can see there. And again, a pop-up appears asking, are you sure you want to activate the strategy? Noting that the already saved settings will apply for the client. And to proceed, simply click on yes, and you'll see that the strategy is now active again with the date and time of the next scheduled run for the strategy displayed, as well as the settings. And then what if you need to edit or even cancel a strategy? Now you can do this by clicking on the action icon, just on the right-hand side of the box there. and you can see there an option to view and edit the strategy, which is where you would edit it if you need to. Also download a PDF form of the strategy should you require for your client, and also the option to cancel the strategy. So let's select cancel now. And this pop-up will appear asking if you're sure you want to cancel, noting that the cash investment strategy settings will be removed. So you would select yes if you're happy to proceed, and you'll see that the strategy is now disabled and the settings removed. So let's consider some other reporting that supports the cash investment strategy, I guess more from a business level and across your client base. So your clients and accounts listing has this view as the default, but you can change to a more cash focused view with the drop down setting here, selecting the cash balances view. Now this will change the list of details to include things like cash balance for each account in a dollar and percentage format, and also versus total portfolio, but as well as the cash investment strategy indicators there also, of which you'll see you'll see either none, active, suspended, or cancelled down that column, and also a column with the maximum cash target if set for a client. So from a business perspective, quickly assisting you with insights to your clients that are using this type of functionality. Okay, and what about help and support? So in addition to this webinar, hopefully, which has provided a lot of information for you on the cash investment strategy, the module, which will be shortly added to the transactions and investment course in the Panorama e-Academy training portal. You will also have the Panorama support section, help and support, which has quick and valuable insights into the functionality and parameters and how to use it for your clients and in your business. We've come to the end of the session. I was happy to take any questions that come through, maybe just while I'm wrapping up. Yeah, Lee has followed up her question with, are there any plans to include ETFs in future at the moment? I'm not sure of that. Maybe get it, we'll certainly take that as feedback, and I will provide that as feedback. I have heard that question before as well, but we'll certainly provide that back to the product team as feedback. Maybe get in touch with your BT BDM to see if there's any developments there, but thanks for that question. Lee? So, and happy to take any further questions just while I'm wrapping up. If you're happy to type any in, I'll deal with any questions as well. But that does bring us to the end of the webinar. Thanks for attending today. Like I said, hope you found it a valuable session. This has been about really introducing to the cash investment strategy, how to set it up, manage it ongoing for clients, as well as how it interacts with other Panorama functionality, because that's important. Like I said at the start, we know many of you may soon be moving to or have already recently moved from BT Wrap to Panorama. So this type of cash sweep functionality is over and above what you've had on Wrap. So certainly worth investing the time to understand it well, how you might use it in your business and with your clients. I guess a few things for next steps. Obviously, if you are new to Panorama, please organise your own login if you haven't already. Please do register for other upcoming live webinars. And the next one we have on our newly released various listed security holding methods is coming up at the start of March. So if listed securities are on your client portfolios, thoroughly recommend you attend that one. Another promotion of our new and interactive, or not new anymore, training portal, the e-Academy training site. That does provide access to now a growing library of training courses, short, bite-sized, self-service videos. If you haven't already registered that site, register for that site, please do here. That's the address that you can see for further information and a link to easily register for the site. And finally, this session will be recorded. We are recording these, shortly be made available, probably later towards the latter end of the week, so you're able to share it with your colleagues if they haven't been able to watch. Just checking if there's any more questions coming through. There haven't been. I hope that's a good sign that I've covered everything for you. There will be a short survey at the end that will pop up. Please do let us know your comments. We love your feedback. Even Lee, if you want to reiterate your feedback, I'll certainly provide that back for you, and suggestions that way that we can improve not only Panorama, but also the training and services that we provide for you. So thanks everyone for your attendance. Really appreciate you dialing in, and enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now. Okay, thanks.